start. Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Etevenard, and I'm a consultant developer at OXiane in France. I work for a client, which is a publishing house in the legal domain, and I mainly work with XML languages, XSLT, relaxing, schematron, and so on. And I also do some Java, JavaScript, and some mainstream languages like this. One day, I did arrive on a new project, and I did find some refactoring would be nice to be done. So I went to the project manager's office and told him I needed time to do some refactor to improve the quality of code. So he said, code quality? Okay, then that sounds good. But Jim, how many time will it take? And so, I don't know, maybe one day, or maybe two, or maybe a week, I don't know, actually. This was not the answer that he expected. But let's talk about this notion of code quality. What is quality? What is good code? It is subjective. But many people, many computer scientists have addressed this question for decades. And there is a consensus on the following principle. I will try to plug my computer again. Okay, that's better. So, what is code quality? I think that code should be easy to maintain. Some good code should be reliable. Good code should just work. Of course, good code should be safe, and good code should be documented. Using commands can do the job, but a standard document syntax is better. Some coding standards exist for many languages. You have the Sun Convention for Java, JSLin for JavaScript, and so on. And all that coding standards are designed to be checked programmatically, automatically. Well, in XSLT, the code quality question was first addressed by Mukul Gandhi 10 years ago in 2009. So he wrote a tool to check XSLT code. This tool is itself an XSLT that uses a rule set which is an XML file. So let's see how it works. So I'm sorry, I did restart my computer, so this is not ready. OK. So Mukul Gandhi's tool, which is an XSLT, reads this file. This is a kind of rule set, which contains some rules. And each rule has a message and XPath. Well, some people may think it looks like schematron, and yes, a little bit. So if I run this on some XSLT code, I get a report with all the rule breaks in my code. So it looked like pretty much like Sematron. Last year, my teammate Mathieu took Mukul Gandhi's work to write an XSLT quality schematron. So some people saw this last year. And so he took Mukul Gandhi's XSL as a working base to write his schematron. If I use an XML IDE like OXiane, I can validate my XSL directly with this schematron. So let's test. So as you can see, there is a lot of errors in my, in my XSL. And I can configure my editor, OXiane, to validate any XSLT file with this tool. So I see my errors with an highlighting, like if I were in Eclipse and so on. This is good, but this does not give me a global vision of my project. For this, we have a leading tool for code quality measurement, which is called Sonar Cube. Well, let's see what is it. Sonar Cube is the leading tool for code quality measurement. One of the main concepts of Sonar Cube are rules. And Sonar Cube analyzes your code and detects the break of a rule. These rules are of different types. Code smell, which is like a code style. It can detect some potential bugs, some potential vulnerabilities. A rule has a default severity. I say default because it can be overridden for user interface or when an issue is raised. Talk after. And a rule can be on different subjects. It's like coding style, the test coverage, etc., etc. When a rule is broken somewhere in the code, Sonar Cube raises an issue. It's like GitHub issue and so on, so you can easily browse the issue across your project. And you can integrate it with your workflow tooling. There is plugins for that, and there is an API also. After each analysis, Sonar Cube compiles the results through which is called a quality gate. A quality gate is something that you configure to say what do you accept and what you do not accept for your project, to say if it's okay or not okay. For example, this is the default quality gate. It's called SonarWay. Well, it may be okay to have minor issue, but not major, for example. Or it may be okay to have legacy issue, but not new issue, not in the new code. Sonar Cube makes the difference. So, well, maybe you can have a little demo. So, I will try to connect my computer to the Wi-Fi. Okay. So I have here a little XSLT project. And I will try to analyze it with Sonar Cube. So this is a Maven-based project. So I use Maven to launch SonarCube, but SonarCube can deal with any build system or even with freestyle projects. It's not a problem. So SonarCube is actually a web server, so the analysis is performed remotely. OK, so it's done. So we can see that it just analyzed my project. And, well, I could. So here's the results. So in my project, SonarCube did raise some issues that are listed here. And I can browse any of them. So some of these issues are Java related because this is a mixed project with Java and XSL. But some issues concern XSL. So I can select the issue to see the detail and to have a contextualized view inside the code. So what we see here comes from the schema.ru XSL quality. All that rules comes from the plugin. An important thing to do is that SonarCube is not only a kind of validator. It can also be seen as a documentation repository because all the rules comes with documentation about why the rule should be followed, showing some examples, etc. So it's already an online documentation for the coding lines, for developers. Another thing to say is that Sonar is not binary. In the company where I work, we use Maven to build projects. And we perform some XML validation during the build. But the problem with that, with Maven, you can only do two things. Make the build fail, or let the build go on. And see if you have some warning, well, you cannot do anything but putting them in some logs or somewhere that nobody reads. Sonar allows to say something like, OK, there is some problems in your code. It's Friday, you can push it in production and go home, but on Monday, you will have to fix it. Another thing that may be interesting to note is that all the issues have severity, major, minor, critical, etc. And a same rule can lead to an issue, but the severity of this issue depends on where, in any way, can depend on where is it on the code. It may be OK to have, I don't know, to have an untitled variable inside a template, but it may be a critical issue to have an untitled parameter for a style sheet, by example. It's an example. Well, so let's see what's behind the hood. So in my SonarCube instance, I have the default SonarCube rules in Java, in Python, in C#, and so on. And here are the XSLT. Because I put the XSLT SonarCube plugin inside it. And these rules come from a schema.ru. Well, right now it's still a prototype, but this is the way it's done. So the main module is this one. it makes a link between Schema.True and any XML-based source code. So it is not limited to XSLT. It can be used to check any XML-based language in SonarCube. So it reads the Schema.True, it reads the rules, the asserts, the reports, it processes it, and it puts them into SonarCube. And after that, when I launch the analysis of the project, well, it just runs the Schema.True. Right now, it is based on the skeleton implementation and Saxon, but it could be, well, it's pretty much agnostic. It could change. Here is XSL quality Schema.True, which I embed in it. So the rule came from the Schema.True. But the Schema.True are in a Maven project, and I do develop a specific plugin to make an artifact specially for this. You can embed some custom Schema.True rules if you want to add some specific rules for your enterprise or your project. And all this is compiled with Maven, and you get the Sonar XSL plugin. So I have some work to do. I must finalize the code and publish it because I put it into Sonar, but there is still some work. It must be deployed in the real world. So in the next week, it will be tested in the company I work. And I have to make some documentation, some communication, a website. There is already a GitHub, but it will be improved. The last thing I'm going to say is SonarCube is not a punitive tool. It's not something to say, oh, it's not good. Or it's not a Git blame tool. No. It allows developers, and not only them, to have more visibility on the quality of what they do. And this allows them to take the time to work better. And as I said, it can be used as a documentation repository. This is very important also. That's it.
Perfectly on time, thank you. Any question? I have anyone else?
I think it's beautiful to have something like this in the XSLT community. As far as I know, there's not many things outside there yet that provide code quality checks and assurances. Could you for one moment put up that slide where you had this list of rules that you're currently working on?
And the SonarCube instance?
No, like a few slides back, I think you had like this list of, or was it in SonarCube itself? You had one before this? No. Oh. There was this list of the rules that you have in, maybe it was not a slide, it was in the product.
I think it's there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because I noticed a few things here, but because I'm wondering, a couple of rules changed with XSLT in the different versions, and it may be challenging, but also interesting to be able to work that out, like know what kind of version is used in the code you're writing, and adapt the rules to that. Mm-hmm. For instance, XSL import can be placed on different locations in 3, but in 2.0 it's more strict, for instance. So that was actually just a point of interest. I would be wondering if that's possible, or we could do something like that.
Absolutely. In fact, this is a proof of concept of using Schema.True in SonarCube. The rules themselves are another subject. So I took the existing rules. There is a lot of work also to improve them, to reflect about them. And it has to be some open source job. But yes, it's the main important thing that effectively it's easy to rebuild a version of this plugin with some other rules and to disable this one or anything.
Sounds beautiful, thanks.
Thank you. Other question? Yes.
Well, indeed, I find it very interesting, and I suggest that you broaden your approach to support schematron for the XDM representation of JSON and CSV. And only you have a little problem then, that is that the messages, to relate them back, I mean, this should be invisible for the user. So I suggest that in the repository there's just, for example, CSV. But the messages should, of course, refer to the right line. And therefore, I have the suggestion that you try to win an XQuery implementer that he offers a parsing of JSON and CSV into an annotated XDM version where line numbers and so on of the original can be seen. And then I think you will have a fantastic tool for checking other kinds of structured data.
I think it's open source, so you can contribute. It will be open source, right?
Yes, of course.
Marvelous. No? It will be open sourced. So anyone can contribute.
That is my question, basically. Over here, so I just have this computer. When exactly will that be available so that we can play around with it?
It is on GitHub, and yes, that's it.
Okay, and the plugin is in a certain format already available? In a certain stage of development? I have to pass it on to someone who knows about all this back-end magic.
The question is the plugin
already available for beta usage, kind of, or?
Oh, well, it's a Maven plugin, so you can build it locally.
Okay.
Sonar is provided as a Docker container, so you can install it with one line.
Okay.
And it's just a jar to put somewhere, and in 5 minutes, you've done.
Thanks.
Any other question?
What did your boss tell you when you show him that, and you can have a better view of the time you need to make the refactor?
You're fired.
So he copy and paste the result into a spreadsheet file.
Thank you.
No question. Thank you very much.